After Eric Cantor's stunning primary loss, House Republicans voted this week to replace him as majority leader. Joining us now for his first interview since winning the #2 job in the House, California Congressman Kevin McCarthy. Congressman, congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back to Fox News Sunday. Let's start with Iraq, where, as we reported, ISIS is still on the move. Was President Obama right to send these military advisors to help the Iraqi army, or should he move even further and authorize military strikes against ISIS now?
I think the first thing he needs to do, because to me, this is not just about Iraq. This is about Syria. This is about Egypt. This is about the entire Middle East. What is our strategy? So why do you send troops? What are they going to do? If you don't have an overall strategy, how do we push back this momentum of this terrorism that's growing throughout the entire region? To me, the key part was lay out a strategy, then we could see the outcome of what we need to do to make it happen.
But we cannot allow ISIS to have a safe haven.
We cannot allow them to go. I do not have a problem sending the 300, but I think it's more important, what is the strategy you're going to have going forward? So what military options do you have? I'd leave everything on the table right now.
Including boots on the ground?
I'd put everything on the table, but most people, when you talk to them, don't think boots on the ground work right now, that you don't need it. But if you don't have a strategy, what would the boots on the ground even do? That's the question you have to have.
Does it make sense to authorize military strikes, airstrikes now, simply to degrade, slow down ISIS, which is moving across Iraq?
If you have a strategy that says the airstrikes have to go, then yes, that would be right. But if you don't have a strategy, why do you pick what you're going to do next? I think the key part is lay out what do we want to do for the entire region to stop the momentum of this growth. You cannot allow them to continue to grow. By not acting, now they have $500 million going to the banks. Now they're growing each and every day. By the lack of action has allowed them to grow. So build an overall strategy that moves that momentum backwards. Airstrikes could be a very good, big key part of it.
House Republicans elected you majority leader this week by a wide margin, but some Tea Party advocates, activists are concerned. Richard Viguerie, a longtime conservative activist, said you and Steve Scalise, the new House Whip, the man who replaced you in the #3 job, are, quote, business as usual, go along to get along, Washington insiders. The gap between the leadership of the Republican Party and the base of the party continues to widen. How do you plead?
Well, I think he probably doesn't know my background. I'm a conservative. I believe in the idea of freedom and liberty, but more importantly, look at my voting background. I voted against bailing out Wall Street. I voted against, never voted for a tax increase. I come through the grassroots. My family was not Republicans. I'm the youngest. I came to this party based upon choice. I believe the Constitution matters, that it's not just a few pieces of paper.
And we're going to get to your family background because a lot of people don't know you a little bit later. But I want to talk about that record and your voting record, because you're generally seen as less conservative than the man you're replacing, Eric Cantor. And let me put a couple of numbers up on the screen. The Club for Growth ranked Cantor with a 68% conservative voting record, you at 53%. National Journal says Cantor was the 80th most conservative House member. You were 170th. They base this on votes on various issues. Your response?
And American Conservative Union gives me a lifetime rating of 90. Faith and Freedom gives me 100%. Who rates what conservative? Check my voting record, check what I believe, and look what I've done. From the standpoint is, when they wanted to bail out Wall Street, I said no twice. When they wanted to raise taxes, I've always said no. I have a philosophical belief that this Constitution matters.
Well, let's talk going forward, because you're going to face some issues between now and November. And let's do this kind of a lightning round. Quick questions, quick answers.
All right.
Immigration. You are on the record supporting a path to legalization for the millions of illegal immigrants who are now in this country. Will you try to pass comprehensive immigration reform before the election that includes not a path to citizenship, but a path to legalization?
I'm on record as saying nothing about immigration until we secure the borders. The borders are not secure. Look at the humanitarian crisis that is happening right now along the border states. These are children that are coming from 3 major countries in this Central America. They're going across. Kids are dying. Who knows what's happening when it comes to human trafficking and others? It's because our borders are not secure. Until you secure the borders, you cannot have the conversation about anything else.
But you are on the record as of, I know, last January, a bunch of quotes where you did say that you thought that There should be legal status.
I don't believe there should be citizenship. I believe in the rule of law. I believe there's an opportunity. But if you don't secure the borders, there's nothing. Until we secure the borders, because the borders are not secure, we're not enforcing the laws, and I think that's a reasonable position. Until that's secure, you can't have an immigration debate.
So are you saying no comprehensive immigration reform that would include border security but also a path to legalization?
Until the borders are secure. I think that's reasonable.
That must come first.
That must come first.
Okay. The Highway Trust Fund runs out of money this summer. Do you support raising the gas tax to keep the trust fund going?
No. That's a Democrat idea. Continue to raise taxes on the families of going forward. Why don't we find a broader solution? The whole highway bill is another example of why I ran. This was a good intent to go through. It now does things that it was never intended to do. We can build a bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, in 3 years, but it takes us 2 decades to build an on-ramp. This needs to be totally reformed as we move. But I believe one of the options that we put forward 2 years ago was an idea for a new funding source. Open up federal lands for exploration, federal government, put that into resources to help build the bridges and roads that we need.
Authority for the Export-Import Bank, which backs, supports, helps encourage the selling of U.S. products overseas, expires in September. Do you agree with conservatives who say that the Export-Import Bank is a form of crony capitalism and it should be put out of business, allowed to expire?
One of the biggest problems with government is they go and take hard-earned money so others do things that the private sector can do. That's what the Ex-Im Bank does. Last authorization with the Ex-Im Bank directed the President and the Treasury Secretary to wind down the Ex-Im Bank, negotiate with the other countries to wind them down so we have a level playing field. We've got hearings going on next week in Financial Service, which I sit on. I think Ex-Im Bank is one that's something government does not have to be involved in. The private sector can do it.
So, straightforward question. You can say it right here. You would allow the Ex-Im Bank to expire in September?
Yes, because it's something that the private sector can be able to do.
What is your attitude about doing business with Barack Obama for the rest of his presidency?
I believe you can work with anybody. The challenge has been Harry Reid. Let me give you an example. There's more than 240 bills that have passed the House that haven't been brought up inside the Senate. If you want to know the problem and the frustration with Washington, the Senate. The Senate has not moved anything. They never send something to the President's desk, so how do you even negotiate with the President if he doesn't have the bill on his desk? The Senate doesn't even allow amendments. We're going through the appropriation process right now in an open process. Sheila Jackson Lee has offered 29 amendments just on appropriation bills. That's about 20 more than the entire caucus of the Republicans inside the Senate has been able to offer for about the whole last year. So what is the holdup here? Harry Reid and the Senate. If that fundamentally changes in November, I think it'll be a new day for America and a new direction.
Finally, let's talk about Kevin McCarthy, because
sure.
Frankly, a lot of people, this is really the first chance they're getting to see you and hear you. You grew up in Bakersfield, California. Your dad was a firefighter. As you point out, your folks were Democrats. How'd you become a Republican?
Philosophical belief. I was the youngest. I came in the 80s. I watched Ronald Reagan, and I watched Jimmy Carter say, put on a sweater and the best days were behind us, and Reagan say, no pastels, fly the bold colors, go to the shiny city on the hill. I knew what I wanted to believe. I believe in an entrepreneur. I believe in greater liberty and freedom, and that's why I took a risk at 19 to create my own company.
I want to talk about that because, and I think a lot of people don't know this, you won the California State Lottery, or won a prize in the California State Lottery just out of high school, $5,000, parlayed it through the stock market, and at age 19, you opened your own delicatessen.
Because I believe in risk. And if I failed, I didn't expect government to bail me out. But if I succeeded, I didn't expect government to take all my taxes. So I took this money, I created my own company. My father and I even built the counter in my dad's garage, and we created a deli. And I soon learned, if you're a small business owner, you're the first one to work, last one to leave, last one to be paid. And you soon learn about what regulation does to your business and the challenges. You wonder where common sense is. But at the end of 2 years, I was successful enough to have enough money to pay my way through college. So I sold my business because I wanted to finish college. And in my local paper it said, be a summer intern in Washington, D.C. with my local congressman. I didn't know the guy, but I thought he'd be lucky to have me, right? So I applied, and he turned me down. But you know what the end of the story is? I'm now elected to the seat I couldn't get an internship for. It's only in this country do you get that type of opportunity. So if
All
you
right. Let's talk about life here in Washington. You sleep on a sofa in your office, your congressional office, when you're in Washington. You're now the House Majority Leader. Don't you think you need better digs?
No. You know why I do it? Because I go back and I read for the next day. I don't want to ever become Washington. I go home every weekend. I don't want it to be comfortable. I don't want to have to worry about my roof in Washington, the school district in Washington. I want to worry about what Jim Balmain, who owns Smith's Bakeries in Union Avenue in Bakersfield, California, worries about. He wakes up 2 o'clock every morning to still bake the best brownies you ever had, who Judy says I eat too many of. But how does it affect him? Why should I ever be comfortable here? And I believe it makes me a better member, makes sure that I continue to listen, and make sure that I can do a better job.
Finally, you helped actor Kevin Spacey develop his role as Frank Underwood in House of Cards. I have to ask you, how much of you is in that character?
Pretty much none of it. And I was never going to help him. He kept asking me, and I wouldn't help him until I found out he played a Democrat, so I told him to come on in. I'd give him any advice. But the only thing I told him is, I tell the members, vote your conscience, vote your district, just don't surprise me. Because people come here, they should represent their district, they should represent their philosophies. That should be the power of the idea in Washington.
I have to ask you, though, in the Frank Underwood role, did you ever kill a political opponent?
No, but I jokingly say if I ever did, it'd be easier to whip. And then 7 members text me to ask me if they'd be the ones I would kill.
I was going to ask, did you ever want to kill a opponent?
No. Look, we are all conservatives. The only thing we ever battle over are tactics, not ideology. Some want to get there faster than others, but there is so much more that divides us in the philosophy of Obama and big government than the idea of greater liberty and freedom, which we believe in.
Congressman McCarthy, thank you. Thanks for coming
me
in today. We look forward to more conversations. Don't be a stranger, sir.
Be glad to be here.
Congratulations again.
Thank you so much.